Bonjour, buenos días. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello everyone.
Hello everyone. Szép napot kívánok mindenkinek.
Bonjour à tous. Je suis Sara Quizzi et je représente le lycée linguistique Jean-Baptiste Vico de Sulmona.
Members of the European Parliament, fellow Europeans, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Dobrý den. That stands for hello in Czech.
We represent more than 100 different nationalities in the borough, multicultural borough with a long tradition of immigration. Our school group goes right the way through the different school years, with 14 different nationalities representing 10% of the school population. So we have multicultural values. Thank you.
We try to bring people closer to the problems in European Union because many of them don't care much about them. But we do, and I hope that after all, people will realize what this means for future generations.
Martin Schulz has strong words. The European Union is a promise, but that promise has not been kept, he said. We're all children of that promise, so it's up to us to rebuild it deeply. Let's always be mindful of the common good in our action, even though they're small, like my country, and get ready to serve in bigger ones, like a united Europe later.
I know that the EU might not be the perfect place, but I think it's a good gift that we have, and it's our task to protect it. I'm very optimistic with that. Also, I hope that we have a lot of fun here today and the last days and tomorrow, and I'm very happy to be here, and I hope we exchange a lot of ideas.
Let's try together to find solutions for a better Europe for all of us, a Europe with prosperity and progress for all of us.
Hope that we could be a source of inspiration for our political leaders and believe that Europe is in good hands. Thank you very much.
The first question is, should Europe assume a greater responsibility worldwide? We figured that this greater responsibility should be tied in with the theme War and Peace. So we thought that the question means if Europe should involve herself in other countries like Syria. And we said yes, because external problems affect us, Europe. If the crisis in Syria would have been stopped earlier, we wouldn't have other crises like the immigration one. And we also thought that every country has a different foreign policy and they take different approaches, and we would like to try to come together and make a common foreign policy that we could work for everybody. The next question is, how will migration change Europe? And what we have come here up with is that if we integrate the people that have migrated in our society and offer them jobs and have a social life with them, that they could bring benefits to Europe. They will feel integrated, they will feel like they have a job, they have a place there, but if you don't do this, they might become violent and don't agree with our views of life. And the last question is, should new policy on migration reflect national self-interest or common European values? Here we thought of a compromise, because there are many countries and it's hard to convince everybody to accept all the European values, and their self-interest enter in conflict with this. So we thought of a compromise here to take all the common values that we have, European self-values, and try to make it out this way. Thank you.
I've got a couple of questions, but I decided to choose only two. First one is involvement of Europe in the Syrian war. What should be this involvement? Should it be military involvement or maybe humanitarian aid? What would you suggest, and what do you mean by European involvement in Syrian war? And second question is about immigrants. How do you want to integrate immigrants? And what benefits integrating immigrants will give Europe? Thank you.
About the involvement in the Syrian problem, I don't think we need too much military involvement because we've seen what happened when the Americans came to Iran and Iraq. After they changed the government, a crisis was installed there. And I'm not an expert on this, I don't know too many, and I don't think this will be a good idea. I would think more of a humanitarian aid, but I think some military aid would be needed. Not very informed in this situation. And about integration, we should go to the refugees camps and talk to them, teach them our language, socialize with them, and maybe even offer them a job.
Well, in our section, the most discussed and maybe most supported thing was e-voting. Most of the section supported that, although they had some concerns with the system. Well, they say, and I agree with that youth would participate in voting and democracy more if they would have the opportunity of e-voting. Just think about ourselves. We use electrical appliances every day. We use our mobile phones, the internet. Maybe if voting would be possible with these things, then possibly we would vote more and our opinion would be expressed. And it's really important because youth is really apolitic nowadays. They don't care much about politics, democracy, and maybe this would be a way to show them and make them participate more. It would be also great for people with any kind of disabilities, started from handicapped people or people living in areas where the population is really low, so they have to travel a lot to vote. Also people in hospitals, elderly, or even people living abroad would vote easier, cheaper, and maybe in a higher number. We had the opportunity to hear some examples from Estonia where the system is already working, and also we had some personal opinions from you people here. And of course, there were some concerns, like the safety of e-voting, hacking or stealing votes. We would like to have some kind of identification which is safer than the one we have now, like fingerprints or IP addresses. This way, we and the government would probably ensure that the voting is safe and legal. As another really important topic, I'd like to speak about inequality and democracy, which we found really important. The gap between a rich and poor and inequality of rich and poor concerned a lot of us. And we would like everyone, without concerning about their financial status, to be able to take part in politics. Not only rich people, not only ones with financial aid, but everyone. And their voice should be heard.
I'm wondering how, if we're doing ourselves, if we're helping ourselves, if we're not helping people to vote, if we can give them indications to help them, would it not be better not just to have more than just clicking a mouse, but rather have active participation in these elections rather than just a simple click of a mouse on a computer?
Well, I don't believe that a simple X on a paper is way better than a simple click on a computer. I believe that voting takes time, only the time to go to a page or go to the place you can vote. But it takes time, so the ones who aren't interested won't vote. But I think democracy is about everyone's voice to be heard, even if they don't participate that actively as you would like it to. But they have the right to vote, and if it's easier and better for them to do it on their computer, then I think we should give them the right to. Thank you.
I'd like to bring forward the matter of exclusion and access of the youth To these problems, we have come up with a quite few possible solutions. Creating a social platform on which the EU citizens can access a unified labor market. We are talking about an app which would enable for students who just graduated some brighter perspective of their future occupation. Then second is that the youth guarantee be implemented in all the EU member states. Third, creating a shadowing program that allows youth to follow and observe any worker in any field. Of course, we must consider the matter of safety. Introducing the dual system throughout the EU. Dual system is a system that works in many countries, and it allows new graduated students or graduates to go through some experience and get some skills, and then get employed with these experiences. Number 5, encouraging schools with required tuition to collaborate with foundations to provide financially challenged students with scholarships. Number 6, educating youth by presenting the current state of the labor market and occupational opportunities, as well as informing them about job contracts. We are talking here about organizing some expos and events where all the students could get to know some people from all over Europe or European Union, and their horizons could get a little bit wider because of this, and they might have some new ideas how to use their education that they have obtained before.
I'd like to ask you with regard to Erasmus+. You said you were going to continue Erasmus+. Do you not think that perhaps we should go further and deepen it and make it a compulsory mobility tool? Because I think that this would be very useful in the area of opening up people's minds, learning about languages, cultures. And I think that Erasmus+, the way we have it today, is just not enough. It's just used for a small number of people and not the majority. I think we need to go further with a European budget. Thank you.
We are in the European Union, and there's plenty of countries with so many different languages, and we know that, so that's just a fact. So if we want to learn the languages, we won't understand each other.
We thought about putting emphasis on the education and putting emphasis again on the work diversity. We thought about it, how to make the connection between freelancers and consumers, and how to encourage entrepreneurs to rise up and give and work through a crowdfunding platform, which would not cost more and will have great benefits for everyone entrepreneur in Europe who wanted to finance his dream and become a great company and provide jobs for the future world. Actually, again, we thought about the technologization of the industry and how the machines would take up the places in industry. And we thought about it making more seminars and online programs to enrich the apport of engineers in Europe. Also, we decided to make some online platforms to encourage working from home and education from home. And I think this is all the points we were deciding in our brainstorming, and thank you very much.
We're talking about innovation, and You've been suggesting innovations such as apps and crowdfunding, which come from the USA, which have already been invented. If we integrate this into Europe, this isn't an innovation as such, it's just using foreign innovation. So I think we need to come up with new things to have real innovation ourselves rather than just importing innovations from elsewhere.
I think, and we in our group consider that these ideas are ideas that should be adopted in the European Union also, not only in the USA. And because I'm from an undeveloped country that can't have access to crowdfunding and has a lot of entrepreneurs that want to have the same advantages and to be supported by people from all the world, I think it's a good idea to sometimes not innovate and just catch some good ideas. But again, you are right. We should have come with something new. And I agree with you. And I don't have how to answer it some other way.
I want to say is that with every new ideas, we need to adapt them slowly. Because as we know, especially in Europe, there were many revolutions. And all the revolutions usually end in a very bad way. So to make Europe even more successful than it's now, we firstly have to make farming great and sustainable. I think that we should educate students a lot, and by that we could educate them at classes. For example, students could learn more about organic farming while they are, for example, studying biology. But I think that every person has heard at least 100 times about the more organic stuff and the sustainable farming. So I think what would be the most effective way to make it better is to set requirements for the farmers to make it even less with the chemicals. We should do it slowly, because if we would just jump right into it and make the requirements very strict, then what will happen? We would lose a lot of food, actually. And we can't right now, I think, afford that. Now, I think that we should slowly adapt another system, which could be giving more money to those farmers who are farming organic food. Because I think by that, more farmers will be motivated to grow organic food.
Instead of reducing subsidies to farmers that do not produce organic food, if the committee has thought about a solution of supporting companies and businesses to push for fair trade?
I think that you have a really strong argument on this position. For example, I think that it's very hard to get a lot of new farmers who would actually farm organic food. And we, as you said, we should fund a little bit larger companies to produce the food, right? And yeah, I think that's all I can say.